Tighten up.
Yep.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, it is all on the table. So we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we did this a couple of weeks ago. We had a flash sale on ISOLYZE. Well, we're sort of reprising that, but maybe in an even more insane fashion. So for fans of ISOLYZE, if you're looking to stock up on ISOLYZE, this may be your chance. However, that window of opportunity may only last about 90 minutes, if even that, once we hit live on this video.
Yeah, you know, we sold most of the stuff, but we do have a little bit left. And it's like I said, the expiration date that we can sell it is in 10 days. The stuff doesn't go bad probably for years after, but I could only sell it till September 30th. So I have lowered the price to make it very appealing. We don't have that many chocolate peanut butter left, but we have, which are 22 serving, but we have a bunch of vanilla peanut butter 44 serving. That's my favorite flavor, actually. I should have mixed it up here to get everyone all excited about it. But when I made peanut butter, I said, you know, I want to make a vanilla peanut butter so you can really taste the peanut butter. Whereas when you put chocolate in there, chocolate kind of, it's really good because a lot of people like chocolate and peanut butter together, but it kind of mutes the peanut butter a little bit because the chocolate taste is strong. But with vanilla peanut butter, you get the full richness if you really like the taste of peanut butter. And I'm a vanilla guy, so that's my favorite flavor. That's what I use every day. And we have a bunch of those containers. So we're offering the 44 servings at $34.99. That's lower than the price of the 22 serving regular price. So I mean, you're crazy if you don't buy everything you can possibly afford because these things are going to, they're not going to go bad. And the chocolate peanut butter, 22 servings, we have down at $19.99. So that's our cost on it. So guys, take advantage because once they're all gone, they are gone. I promise you that. Don't come crying that you didn't know about the sale. They're going to probably sell pretty quickly. We do have more of the vanilla peanut butters than the chocolate peanut butters, but like I said, the sale will be on until they're all gone, and that's it. So we don't do sales like this very often. This is rock bottom, and that's only because I have not. Look, if I don't sell them all, I'll just use them myself and give them to my friends. But I'm not worried about that. But I want to give you guys the opportunity, especially a lot of people out there really want to try ISOLYZE, but maybe they couldn't afford it. This is the perfect opportunity to stock your closets full of the stuff and really enjoy it. So, guys, head over to speciesnutrition.com and do not wait.
So again, that's chocolate peanut butter ISOLYZE, 22 servings for $19.99. Vanilla peanut butter, 44 servings at a ridiculously low $34.99 at speciesnutrition.com. And again, while supplies last. Let's go to the questions. First two questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience. That first question, how long should an off cycle last before getting back on a blast cycle to minimize muscle loss during off cycle? How long should a cycle be if wanted to maximize or optimize muscle mass?
How long? Are they asking how long to stay on a cycle or how long to be off a cycle? I didn't catch that.
How long should an off cycle last? So I guess to be off cycle. Yeah.
I like ideally 8 weeks. I mean, at the minimum. Longer is better. If you can do 12 weeks, not everyone has that luxury because they have to compete and they have to have an off season. So let's say you do your show today. I usually tell people within the first week you're off and you take your last shot, that's when you want to do your HCG. So you're going to do 2 weeks of HCG at 2,000 IUs every third day. That's just the way I like to do it. And then 2 weeks of Clomid every day, like 50 to 100 milligrams. Some people can't handle 100. It kind of makes them, kills their sex drive. So even 50 milligrams per day of Clomid for 2 weeks. if you don't like Clomid or you can't get it, you can always use Nolvadex at 10 milligrams twice a day. You do that for 2 weeks, like I said. So that's the first 4 weeks. So the first 4 weeks, you're really not off theoretically. Not to mention the stuff is still in your system too, because a lot of these long-acting injectables will last 3 weeks. And then the next 4 weeks, you're off, period. You don't take anything. Now, some guys will take a little GH, 2 IUs per day. That's not going to affect your androgen receptor regeneration, so that's fine to do that. But you're going to be off all anabolics. That means no cruising, no bridging, no HRT. You're on nothing for 4 weeks. I usually have people the whole 8 weeks stay on my TESTALYZE product to kind of balance their own natural levels, keep DHT and estrogen lower, natural testosterone level higher. That works really well. And once you get through that 8 weeks total, then you can consider going back on, because now you're detoxed and your receptors have been regenerated. Now, if you can stay off an additional couple weeks beyond that, I used to try to do 10, 12 weeks every year, because I would stay on the whole year and then I'd do 10 to 12 weeks off. I found that I responded really well, because what would happen is the body doesn't understand that you're not taking testosterone or that you're not producing any. All it understands is that nothing's happening in the muscle. It's not being stimulated with androgens. So it assumes that the androgen receptors, there's not enough of them. So the body will start making more androgen receptors. Now, a lot of people, especially guys who cycle for a good portion of the year, have less androgen receptors than most people do, because their bodies are so flooded with so much testosterone that their bodies pull back receptors. Now, they still respond well because they just have so much testosterone available to stimulate these receptors. When you go off and now there's nothing there, the body then regenerates these androgen receptors because nothing's happening in the body. And, it doesn't indefinitely. In other words, if you stay off a year, you're not going to get better androgen sensitivity than if you stay off for 12 weeks or something like that, or 14 weeks. So there's a diminishing return. Like, you don't want to stay off too long, because then you can get, then you can lose muscle. So anywhere from that 8 to 12, 14 week, off period, that seems to be ideal for regenerating androgen receptors and for detoxifying your body. Now, this is just what I have noted empirically, meaning that I've seen in myself and other competitors what seems to work best time frame wise. There's no studies to show this stuff, because they don't do studies on this stuff. They don't get funded for this stuff. But I'm telling you what I've seen over the years, and I've been around for a long time, and I did, I took my fair share of anabolics over the years. That always worked best for me. The 1 year that I never went off and I cruised a little bit, on some testosterone, my body just got stale, and I made no improvements that year. So I never did it again. I always went off for at least minimum 10 to 12 weeks. That was my average, I would say, every single year. And it worked well. So.
Second question, again, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Correct me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. Is it vasepa or vasepa, fish oil?
Yes, that's the prescription name of
right.
Fish oil.
So the question is that the commenter read that RX grade fish oil can cause afib in people. Is it the same true, or I guess would the same be true with omegalyze?
I went and I've read those articles when it first came out, where they were showing that vasepa, which is basically pharmaceutical grade, it's basically the government selling fish oil, okay, at a much heightened price point. Now, the reason why people use it is because if you have high cholesterol, your prescription plan will cover it. So, but it's basically just if you use a high quality fish oil, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, the study showed, and there wasn't a lot of studies, and it was maybe like 1 or 2 studies that I think it was only really one that really pointed out the fact that they found that people were getting increased arrhythmias. And one of the kind of arrhythmia that they were getting were atrial fibrillation, which was the top chambers of the heart. The atria were fluttering a little bit, and the problem is that the people weren't like super healthy people that they were doing the study on. So, you have to wonder if, they created a scenario where, they kind of induced what was going on, in a sense. I don't think if you give vasepa or any other pharmaceutical grade fish oil to a group of healthy bodybuilders that you're going to get atrial fibrillation. We just don't see it. It's not like we see everyone takes fish oil now. We sell thousands of bottles of omegalyze, which has fish oil balanced with the right amount of omega-6 fats, which come from evening primrose oil. We sell a lot. That's like one of our number one selling products. And, no one's going to the hospital in atrial fibrillation. So once again, you got to take these studies, for what they're worth. If there was 25 studies to show that, now we have to take a look at it. If they were with healthy people too, as well as sick people, that would also be something that we have to look at. So I'm not so sold on the fact. The problem is that a lot of people who have heart issues also take fish oil because they're prescribed by the doctor, and that's why they're looking at these patients retrospectively, saying, all right, this person was prescribed this, but they all have heart issues. So it's not really a good indication of, is fish oil causing fibrillation? My instinct tells me not.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us there, our handle is official_RxMuscle. If you're watching us for the first time here on YouTube, we welcome you. Ask that you subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our show segments, updates, any of our live feature shows that we have Sunday night with Heavy Muscle Radio. We are thinking about going live next week with After Hours Tuesday afternoon. If we do, we'll let you know in advance what time we have. But again, if you're subscribed, you hit the notification bell, you're not going to miss any of these live shows or anything that we do throughout the course of the week. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. As always, we appreciate all of your support. So we talked about the Instagram questions. Let's start with a TikTok-related question, Dave.
We got TikTok questions now. All right, yes.
Well, no, it's a TikTok-related question.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've been following along, but there is a new TikTok challenge out there involving people cooking chicken in NyQuil. Have you seen this?
No, I have not. What is the purpose? To get high off of it or what?
I'm not, to be very honest with you, I'm not sure. All I know is that the FDA had to issue a warning regarding preparing chicken or any food substance.
People are so NyQuil. Crazy. They're so crazy, people. Yeah. Why are they doing this? Someone just thought it was a funny idea? Or is that?
You know what, Dave? So I'm going to take a little step off this for a little bit. Somebody posted a video the other day, and it was so truthful in a sense. The algorithm for TikTok and really for Instagram as well, right? It dictates your viewing experience. It dictates what you're consuming. Right. And somebody made a point where, like, it's almost as if TikTok is trying to make this country just flat out dumb. Because the algorithm China owns it, yes, Right. I know. I didn't want to get, political or into any geopolitical stuff, but the thought process is that this country is being exposed to an algorithm which is trying to make you stupid by showing you all these dumb challenges, whereas over there, they're showing them like, oh, look, this is how you excel in math and sciences. Whereas with us, it's how do you prepare chicken in NyQuil of all things.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is? If we had, like, our social media is limited in these countries like China, because they don't want people consuming the stuff that we're, the content that we're producing over here. So, but yet we can't inhibit anything in this country. It's like, nope, we gotta let it in. It's freedom of speech, right? So.
Nonetheless, So if you haven't already seen that, go check it out. And PSA: don't prepare your chicken in NyQuil. No. Let's take a bodybuilding related question from Soren Popa. Should the quarter turns matter as much as the 8 mandatories like back in the old days?
I mean, I don't know why it's not a judged round anymore. I mean, I guess people just got bored with it. It's not really a very glamorous round. It was always like, all right, can we get through this round so we can get to the poses? That's always the way I felt watching it, although I knew it was important. I guess, look, I mean, if you think about it, men's physique and figure are judged exclusively on quarter turns. So maybe since we have these divisions now, they figure, well, bodybuilders should be just posing, the posing rounds. But just standing relaxed, waiting to hit your shot, the judges are evaluating physiques in that sense. I don't know. I'm for tradition. I like traditional ideas about, bodybuilding. I think it's sometimes when you change things, it kind of ruins the sport a little bit. So I think the symmetry round was good. I don't like the fact that they did 100 call-outs for just symmetry. People don't realize in the Olympia, they would do like Ronnie Coleman in the middle, Flex Wheeler on the right, and Kish Cormier on the left. And, they would go through just quarter turns, and then they would send them back in line. They had just a quarter turn round. And then they would do, then they would have a call-out round after that. But I don't know if we necessarily need to do that, but I wouldn't mind seeing some, quarter turns, in the show just to see symmetry and how their bodies flow and everything like that. It kind of gets people prepared for the posing round right after. But, what happens is so many classes and so many people now that they just want to get these shows over with as quickly as possible. And I think that the symmetry round just kind of slowed the show down. And so they get rid of it. But that's the way everything is. I mean, everything's about how fast can we do things now because people have no attention span whatsoever. And so even with, if you watch YouTube videos now or you watch reels on Instagram or TikTok, everything's, you got to instantly get to it. If you don't get to it instantly and grab people's attention right from the beginning, you lost them already. And that's just our social media age. So I guess in a sense, to keep people interested in watching bodybuilding shows, they try to make them run as quickly as possible and they try to get right to the meat and potatoes. Let's hit some poses,
Stephen Bateman, your thoughts on off-season cardio? Would you recommend any?
I do for certain people. People, number one, that they get fat real easily. I'll keep that. And I don't always give them cardio every week. Sometimes I'll give cardio for like 4 or 5 days in a row, and then the following week I might give them no cardio. I kind of mix it up a little bit so their bodies don't get used to it. For other people, it's interesting because you would think guys with like super fast metabolisms, you would never give them cardio. And that was always my old way of thinking. But I've found that with people that can't eat that well, sometimes giving them a couple days of cardio actually jacks their appetite up really high, much higher than what they're burning, walking on a treadmill for 20 minutes a couple days a week. And that sometimes gets them growing, believe it or not. So if you have a person who's like stagnant and is not growing for some reason, but you're feeding them an enormous amount of food and you just can't figure it out, logic would tell you less is better, right? Give them a little cardio, 2 to 3 days a week. 20 minutes. It's weird, but it works sometimes. And once again, I always do the opposite of what logic tells me when things are just when nothing is working that I'm trying at that point. I mean, because people can only consume so much food in the course of a day, So if they're eating maximum food and I'm giving them cheat meals almost every day and they're not growing, I give them a little cardio, and that usually kicks their body into gear. But other than that, off season, for the majority of people who don't get fat easily and who are growing well, no cardio.
MacGyver's duct tape. Now there's a name. 2-3 years ago, you did a video on apple cider vinegar. That's actually one of the most watched videos in this channel's history. We labeled it as, a bodybuilder's secret weapon. And you talked about obviously all the benefits of apple cider vinegar, but this one specifically, the question is about apple cider vinegar. Is it good for lowering cholesterol? And if so, in general, rather, how much should I be taking?
I've never really seen it do that. And I don't really know by what mechanism it would lower cholesterol. Anything that binds up bile salts in the gut will lower LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. So like FiberLyze, which is something I always advise, is a soluble form of fiber that will bind up bile salts that are released from the gallbladder. And those bile salts are basically the used up LDL cholesterol, and it pulls it out of the body. So it doesn't get regenerated and put back into the circulation. And so that's why like a good fiber, high potency, high swell rate, soluble fiber will lower LDL cholesterol. Likewise, good essential fatty acids. Like if you restore your fatty acid balance to your body and you get those omega-3s up, the high DHA, EPA, quantities, that lowers LDL cholesterol too. That's just, research study after research study have shown those two lower cholesterol. And that's why, it's not like I'm trying to sell my products, but, a good tandem two-product, approach to lowering cholesterol significantly is FiberLyze and omegalyze. But, there are other supplements that have, somewhat of a LDL lowering effect. Even macadamia nut oil, which is a high monounsaturated fat, will help LDL cholesterol. But there are other, I don't know if apple cider vinegar, however, is going to significantly make a change. So if you have like 150 LDL and you want to be down to 99, taking apple cider alone, vinegar is probably not going to reduce it more than a couple points. So to me, I wouldn't call that a cholesterol lowering effect. When you have a significant amount where you can reduce it 50 points or 30 points, that's more significant. And that's soluble fiber, essential fatty acids. So I would focus on those. However, apple cider vinegar is good, once again, for alkalinizing the body, detoxifying. If you have acid reflux, it seems to fix that. And that's what I use it for.
It's been a while since you've been asked about this from Sammy Sampson. Your thoughts on HGH fragments? Are they any good? Are they trash, or somewhere in between?
You see, the problem is whenever I evaluate like something like an HGH fragment, I always have to evaluate it against growth hormone. So in other words, if I'm taking growth hormone, how much fat burning am I going to get? If I take the fragment, you would think that would elicit more fat burning because it's the fat burning component of GH, right? But it doesn't. It doesn't. So it doesn't work as potently as growth hormone at burning fat. Now, does it burn some fat? Yeah, I think that there's enough studies to show that it will burn some body fat. So is it a complete waste to take? That depends on, if you want to spend the money or not, or if you want to take the injections of it. I think it does work, but I don't necessarily know in some people of how significant it's going to be. The problem is that people take GH and GH fragments and GH releasing peptides thinking that they're going to burn significant amounts of fat, and they actually think that they can eat more food while they're doing this. And what happens is they burn no fat and they actually get fatter. And so I always tell people growth hormone works great at burning fat when you're on a diet. So in other words, if you're already dieting hard and you take GH, you recover better, you maintain muscle mass better, and you burn fat better, But if you're not really dieting and you're just taking GH in the off season thinking you're going to stay ripped, that's probably not going to happen for you. Now there are certain people that have an insane metabolism. When I was at the height of my career and I was weighing 300 pounds, relatively lean, when I took GH, it was like, made me a furnace, but I was already a furnace. I didn't need to take the GH. So you can see I'm on no drugs now and I'm still ripped. So don't use a person who has a really, really fast genetic metabolism as an indicator. Oh, that guy takes GH, he must be ripped because of the GH. It wasn't the GH. The GH helped a little bit, but it wasn't, the end-all, do-all. And I think that's the mistake people make. If you're going to diet hard on a strict diet and you're going to do your cardio and you're going to watch the food you're eating and you put some GH fragment in there, it'll probably help, a couple of percentage points, which I find to be significant if, in the scheme of things. But a lot of people will not be happy with the results of it. They think they're going to burn, 10 pounds of body fat a week. That's not going to happen. Now, clenbuterol on another, if you look at clenbuterol from a different angle, that's not, related to growth hormone. It's an asthma medication that actually just happens to have fat burning properties. That works way more significantly than GH or GH fragment for that matter. So if I'm looking for the best bang for my buck at burning body fat, clenbuterol is the way to go. But once again, if you don't diet and you take clenbuterol, you might lose a little bit of fat, but you're not going to lose a significant amount.
Angel Chavez, how should insulin be used in the daily GH cycle?
That's very, it's a loaded question because there's different ways to evaluate what's going on when you take GH. First of all, I like to have people take their fasting blood sugars every day before they start GH. Sometimes people have high fasting sugars even before they start GH because they're eating a lot of food. Assuming they don't, and then they take growth hormone, okay, and now they're running high fat, they're over 100 when they wake up in the morning, which really over 90 is high. But I'm saying, let's say they're in the hundreds, because I have people in the hundreds, and I'm like, we got to put you on a long-acting insulin because your body is not handling, the GH is making you too insulin resistant 24 hours a day, and you're running high blood sugars in the morning. That's not good. So usually we try to fix that with a long-acting insulin like Novolin N, Lantus, Tresiba, there's a whole bunch of them, Toujeo, there's a whole bunch of these long-acting insulins. That usually will fix the problem. In some people, however, you fix the problem, but they're still not gaining weight. So in other words, they're taking GH, they're staying pretty lean, but they're just not putting on the weight no matter how much food they eat, okay? In those instances, I find that people just need a little bit of exogenous fast-acting insulin to help them absorb all the food they're eating because they're eating such an enormous amount of food. They're already relatively lean. So, it's not like the insulin is going to make them fat. And in those people, I will use like a Novolin R, which is a somewhat fast-acting insulin, meaning that you take 10 units of R in the morning, half of it immediately gets released. That's 5 units, which will cover 50 grams of carbs. And then in 2 hours, the other 5 units gets released, and you cover another 50 grams of carbs. So you could basically take a shot of that in the morning and then another shot of it right before meal 4, or 3, I should say. And so that sometimes will kickstart people into growing too, because now they're absorbing their food better because they're taking exogenous fast-acting insulin. So you got to distinguish between slow-acting, what we call basal insulin, which fixes fasting blood sugars, and then fast-acting insulin, which you would only give to people who have very fast metabolisms, who have trouble gaining weight, not to people who grow relatively easily, who get fat easy, because you give them that and then they get fatter. So once again, insulin is not here's the protocol, everyone follow it, like steroids is. It really depends on the situation, and you need to have a blood sugar monitor to know what the situation is, so you can know what your blood sugars are first thing in the morning fasting, 2 hours after your meals, and then make a better assumption. I think people just shotgun the same insulin approach to everyone, and that's why some people get good results, some people become fat slobs, and some people just literally have big problems with it because they just don't need to take that much insulin.
So I know we started the show with the sale, but my bad for not bringing it up on this. And we are getting a few people asking about how your surgery went, how you're doing right now, and just in general, how do you feel? I know last week we talked about obviously this being a very major surgery for you, so. A lot of people have been asking us throughout the course of the week how it all went. And I know you said you wanted to kind of keep it low, after the surgery, and you didn't want to be inundated with messages, but if you want to address the audience and for all those well-wishers out there.
Yeah. I really won't know how the surgery went until 8 weeks from now when they take off. I still have to go get a hard cast on Monday. Right now I have a soft cast. I got my foot up here. Right there. They keep the soft cast on for 10 days because they want you to let your foot, inflammation go down. So Monday I got a hard cast on. That'll be 4 weeks, and then I go back in 4 weeks and they do another hard cast because your leg shrinks a little bit, so they got to put a tighter cast on. And then after those 8 weeks, then they take the cast off and they put like a walking boot on you. And I don't necessarily know if they're going to let me walk right away on it or not. I don't know what the protocol is, especially since the last surgery didn't go so great when I started walking. But they fused my ankle, essentially. They put a rod through the bottom of my foot up through into my tibia bone. So everything is locked. And then they packed my ankle joint with bone grafting material. And hopefully it all grafts together and holds. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. So that when I walk, I'm not going to be in pain. Now, my ankle will be locked into this like right angle position, which is going to suck. But it's better than walking with pain. And so, in other words, they could have gone in there and cleaned out a little bit, but then I'd be walking on, for some reason, my talus, this happens a lot with hips. It got avascular necrosis, meaning that the top of it basically died, the blood supply to it, and so it shattered when I was walking on it. And so I don't have like a nice, even surface anymore. So I showed it to, obviously this doctor looked at the CT scan. My good friend Victor Prisk looked at the CT scan. I sent it to him. And they both kind of agreed that the only real way you're going to walk without pain is going to be, to fuse the ankle. And so I didn't want to do it, but, I don't want an amputation down the road. They both felt that an ankle replacement wouldn't necessarily work well because I have very, very loose joints. I have the laxity in my tendons and ligaments are insane. And that a lot of people think, a few physicians that I've gone to that are, especially my friends, think that it's some kind of a genetic disorder. That I have not been diagnosed with yet officially, but I have all the symptoms of it. Hyperflexibility, and my whole life I've had that. But luckily, I've never had any injuries my whole life. This is weird that I kind of hit 50 and all these things started going wrong. So you never know. I don't know it doesn't really matter what the cause is. It's dealing with the what's happening, and so I did this so that I can walk, hopefully, like I said, even though it might be a weird walk that I have eventually without pain. And so really right now it's kind of like I'm scootering around. So they don't want me to put any pressure on it whatsoever. I won't really know until I start doing the physical therapy and trying to use it again if the surgery was a success. But a lot of people reached out to me, and I do appreciate that. And, that it means a lot to me that, everyone in our community was really pushing for me to get through this. First 3 days were pretty painful. That's why I told them I wanted to stay in the hospital. I didn't want to go home because, you got them waiting on your hand and foot there. You don't sleep very much in the hospital because they're always coming and taking your temperature and your blood pressure and this and that. But they gave me some good pain meds. And the funny thing was, I went home on Sunday. I took a pain med before bed, and when I woke up Monday, I never took another pain med after that. So the first 3 days were very painful, but after that, I can manage mild pain. That doesn't even bother me. And like I said, I maybe took 2 Tylenol, I think, the other day, because I felt like I was getting like a little, when you come off pain meds, you get a little withdrawal from them. There's no way around it, especially because I was on a lot. And so I think I was so tired also from being in the hospital that I just slept the last 2 days during the afternoon a lot. And today was the first day I felt really good. So I feel back to my old self now in terms of cognitively speaking. And I just have to be careful that I don't fall or, because the scooter makes you feel like you're invincible. You can fly around real fast in that. But if you hit a rock with that thing, you go flying off it. It happened the last time to me. So I got to be careful with the scooter. But it is what it is. Like I said, I did that video from the hospital purposely because I want people to know. And I had a lot of people who, were reaching out to me, and they're going through a lot of physical pain. They took one of my clients tore his bicep. Another guy had a foot problem as well. And, there's a lot of people worse off than you are. And you got to just focus on the positive aspect of what's going on in your life. You cannot fixate on the negative. If you do, you will attract more crap to yourself that you just don't want. So I know it's hard to block it out, but you know what? I just try to think about all the good things in my life and the things that I'm passionate about and the things I want to do. And I just, it is what it is. If you don't have that attitude, you're gonna wind up wanting to kill yourself. That you're gonna get so depressed. So you cannot go into that black dark area. And it's very easy to slip in there, believe me. But you have to say, what's going on good in my life? And I had a lot of, I don't know if you call them angels, or a lot of scenarios that presented themselves with me, and where I saw people were way worse off than I was, and I'm like, what am I complaining about? I'm lucky that that's all that's going on with me. And so you have to keep it in perspective.
Hey, a couple of more questions. We got a lot of really good questions, so we'll either reserve them for next week, or we'll send them to Dave to do individual videos on. Let's go to this question from Brazil. What was the highest dosage you ever saw anyone do with Trenbolone?
I didn't. It wasn't any of my clients, but Aceto told me that he had someone, and I'm not going to say who the coach was that had him do it. They were doing 1,200 milligrams a week of Trenbolone. And you know what? I bet you there's people doing more than that. That to me is insane, because I know people who go crazy on 100 milligrams, every other day of the stuff. And even at 100 milligrams, every day, which would only give you 700 milligrams for the week, that's pretty high, So what people don't realize is that Trenbolone really jacks your blood pressure up a lot. And, that's why it's very dangerous for your kidneys, because your kidneys should not be under constant, high pressure like that. It also jacks up your nervous system. And that's why a lot of people get hiccups from it. A lot of people get digestive problems for it. People can't sleep because they're overstimulated. So there's this sweet spot of what works, and then there's too much. I've actually lowered the dosages I have guys on, and I think they're doing better, because a lot of guys just can't take it. A lot of guys are like, Dave, I just can't sleep. I feel, or I have indigestion. I said, just stop it. There's no sense in suffering. It's like the Anadrol. If you can't eat on Anadrol in the off season, why would you take it? Even though it's a strong drug, you can't grow if you don't eat, right? So you have to every person's a little different, but even 50 milligrams every other day or 3 times a week is more than enough. Back in the day, we would take 2 Parabones a week. That was 76 milligrams per Parabone. So figure that's 150 milligrams around per week. That's exactly what I'm telling you to take, 50 milligrams of Trenbolone acetate 3 times a week or every other day. That's more than enough. You're going to get all the benefits from it, and you're going to get way less side effects.
Last question from Carlos Fit NYC. Should Synthol or any oil injection be banned from being used? Should judges look for very bad and distracting muscles that clearly have oil in them and deduct points for it, even if it can cost top competitors their placings or even win a show?
The answer to that question is yes. It should be penalized, meaning that anytime someone injects, and it doesn't have to be Synthol. I mean, guys, I see, guys inject, 10 cc's of testosterone into their shoulder. If it looks ridiculous, then it's got to be marked down, because it's an aesthetic sport. But if you can spot inject, whether you're using your gear or you're using Synthol, into a muscle and make the muscle look good, in other words, you can't tell that it's shot up and you can't tell that it's enhanced, then you did a good job artistically. You didn't overdo it. You didn't underdo it. You sold your look to the judges. That's what it's all about. Everything's an illusion, right? So if your illusion that you create artistically is something that's aesthetic and works, then great. The judges should accept it. There's no way to test if someone's using Synthol or not using Synthol, because Synthol is, for most of the people that use Synthol, they're just using sterile oil. So, I mean, the anabolics come suspended in oil. So it's the same thing you're doing. So, I mean, Valentino swears, and I believe him because he's not a liar, that he never used Synthol. And why would he lie? I mean, he doesn't need to. But he said he took 10 cc's of testosterone at a whole bottle at a time, you know. So, of course, he was using a high volume of oil in his body, and that's why it looked that way. So, you know, you could just, if you overdo anything, it's going to look ridiculous. And if you have a noticeable bulge that doesn't belong there, the judges have to mark that down. Same thing with your legs. If you have a bulge sticking out of the side of your leg that doesn't belong there, they got to mark it down because that does not belong there. But if someone wins a show and the person even admits to using, you know, site injection oils and they spot inject all their body parts, but it looks good, then that's fine. And that's how judges judge. They judge what they see. They don't see anything that looks suspicious, they don't mark it down. If they do, they mark it down. I hear it all the time. I've seen guys lose shows because they had a bad, you know, infection, or they had a lump that didn't belong in a place. Iris Kyle was the reigning Miss Olympia. They put her like out of the top 5 at the Arnold Classic one year because she had some kind of a lump on her glute. I don't even know what it was from, but it didn't look good, and that's the way it goes, you know.
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder right now at speciesnutrition.com. You're the first to know of this updated sale on ISOLYZE. Chocolate peanut butter ISOLYZE, 22 servings for $19.99. Vanilla peanut butter ISOLYZE for 44 servings, $34.99. We have limited quantities. Once they run out, they run out. The sale will not roll over or apply to any other flavors or any other newer editions of these flavors of ISOLYZE. So once it's gone, it is gone. Go now, stock up at speciesnutrition.com. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.